Welcome to Metatech Podcast, the community of experts for the Metaverse, Web 3.0, and NFTs. Learn and be inspired by top industry leaders with your host, Ricardo Carrion. Together, we are building the Internet of Tomorrow.
Hello, everybody. This is the Metatech Podcast, and I'm very happy today because we have a great guest with us, John Kraski. He's very well known in Web3. He has been doing a lot of things, and he will talk a little bit more about that today with us. And also, he's been hosting podcasts and hosting many events around the world. So thanks a lot for being here with us, John.
Thank you, Ricardo. It's been a while, Ricardo. We actually met each other in real life back in Austin last year for Decentral Austin.
Yeah.
So we were in the speakers room. That was cool. So thank you so much for reaching out and giving me this opportunity. I'm excited to be here. My name is John Kraski. I'm Director of Strategic Partnerships at LandVault. We're one of the world's largest metaverse builders. We have about 120 designers, builders, and architects, and we build activations for some of the biggest brands in the world. So we've done activations for brands such as MasterCard, Heineken, and then we've even done projects for very Web3 native IPs like World of Women. Then I am also the president of Good Morning Web3, which is a Web3 events company. We've hosted over 25 different events around the world. Most recently, we just held events in Dubai, Tel Aviv, and London. And we're really focused on being kind of that onboarding place where Web2 brands can come in and learn about Web3. So we're really trying to bridge the gap between Web2 and Web3. I also am the host of a TV show and podcast called NFT Heat, where we interview top thought leaders in the Web3 space. And then lastly, which is how we met, is LinkedIn. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I've been trying to really be one of those voices on LinkedIn that help kind of guide and shape the space the correct way, build community the right way. So yeah, anybody that really wants to own and control their brand in 2023 and beyond, I cannot emphasize enough. Get on LinkedIn, own it. It's such a powerful thing. I would say most of my success is because of LinkedIn. So, but that's a whole other episode. So.
Yeah, great. And we have here with us Wendy. Wendy is my co-host, and we'll be having this conversation with you. Hello, Wendy. How are you?
Hey guys, nice to be here with you guys. Thank you so much.
All right. Where are you, Wendy? Or Wendy, where are you? You're in Colombia?
No, I am in Mexico. I live in Mexico, but I am
from Colombia. Cool. All right, awesome. Love it.
Let's do it.
Hey, John.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. I was thinking kind of like asking you about yourself, but you have already done some sort of a presentation at the beginning. So you said that we met, I guess it was June last year. Around June in Austin, and for Consensus and Decentral. And so a lot of things have changed. So what have you seen the evolution in that, a little bit? Basically 6 months. Basically 6 months of the Web3 evolving and the space evolving around that time.
Yeah, it's definitely got a lot more mature. Obviously the kind of the big NFT cartoon party of 2021 and early 2022 is basically over at this point. A few of those big NFT projects are still around, the Yuga Labs, VeeFriends, the ones that were backed by venture capital. They still have money, and they're still kind of in business. Very curious to see, once the money runs out, whether they'll actually still be around. But that phase of Web3, I think, is basically done at this point. So now you're starting to see the big brands, the Starbucks, the Nikes, really starting to lean into Web3 and kind of figuring out how does that fit into addressing their key KPIs, whether that's growing sales, growing their customers. So it's definitely becoming more mature. But I was advocating that way back when. I said the people that are going to win Web3 are the people that are right now. And you're starting to see that with Microsoft. They had a massive investment of $10 billion in Chat GPT. They're basically almost finalizing their acquisition of Activision Blizzard. So you're starting to see the big brands, because they have the money, they have the customers, they're the ones that are going to drive mass adoption. So that's starting to play out more and more. So yeah, it's super interesting. I think there's some companies in Web3 that exist today that will survive this, but I honestly think in 5 years from now, the Googles, the Apples, the Amazons of Web3, many of them probably haven't even been created, or they're just literally being created right now and you've never even heard of them. So I don't think many of the big names are going to be around. I mean, I don't want to really get into specific names, but just a lot of those big names that were kind of front runner 6 months ago, they're having a lot of issues. So there's not too many companies, I think, that are going to survive this, honestly, in Web3. And it's because I really believe it's because they never focused on building product and they never focused on the customer. Really basic business fundamentals. And that's what I mean, my background is accounting and finance. I used to be a CPA. I used to work for KPMG, Price Waterhouse. I worked for JP Morgan. I got my MBA from the University of Southern California, which is a top 20 MBA program. So I have like this very interesting background for somebody who's in sales and partnerships. I understand balance sheets. I understand income statements. I understand how these executives are thinking inside these Fortune 100 companies. The CFO, the CEO, the CMO, they're looking at metrics, their dashboards. How like, is Web3 going to solve my problems better than Web2? And that's the fundamental problem that most Web3 companies have not answered for Web2. Is like, why? Like, I had a meeting at CES with a major soft drink company, and they're just like, well, how does Web3 solve my KPIs better than Web2? And if you don't have that answer, and if you can't back it up with real data and real use cases, you're screwed. And that's what's happening. And that's what's playing out. And yeah, the kind of the game is up for a lot of these companies now. It's like, you better show us results. You better show us data. If you can't, you're done. And a lot of these companies are now running out of money. Their runways are, kind of winding down. So it's exciting though. In the same vein, there's a lot of opportunity if you really came into the space ready to build the right way. And that's what I've always leaned into. I've always kind of really focused on developing high quality relationships with people rather than the tech, because I knew the tech was going to change and move very quickly. So I've just really aligned myself with really high caliber people that were always in it to not make a quick buck, always build. You really have to have a 10-year mindset, I think, in Web3. I think a 10-year mindset is like the mindset. If you don't have that mindset, then you probably shouldn't be in Web3. You should probably do something else.
It's kind of hard to sell projects to the brands on a 10-year mindset. I mean, yeah, you can be building and trying to, look into that horizon. But the brands, they live by the quarter, and
they live by the quarter. They live by the quarter, and here's the thing: the other thing you have to look at the macroeconomic things that are happening. All these companies, even the most successful tech companies, the Amazons, the Metas, they're all laying off people. Google, all laying off people. So like, they're laying off people trying to cut expenses. Are they going to really then all of a sudden add a line item where, for Web3, which is still kind of in their mind experimental, risky? I think the FTX thing really had a massive impact. It almost really put us back, not even to ground zero, probably to ground 100 or whatever. We have to literally even get back to that point again. So it was a detriment, and it's even affected some things that I was doing, just like not only deals, but just like different opportunities I had. The FTX thing just completely killed them. So
yeah, that's right. So go ahead, Gwen.
Okay, so I would like to ask you, what are the challenges for Web2 companies to onboard into the Web3 concept? You said from the what would be?
Yeah. I mean, the challenges are it's very friction filled. There's just not really products with easy on ramps. It's just not there. There's not products that have been built that can handle like mass adoption. I mean, Facebook, Meta, they have over 1 billion customers. There's not a lot of Web3 products out there yet that even can handle that kind of scalability. So, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have, and we still, Web3 is still not fully fleshed out the products that it's presenting to Web2. What is that? What are those products that you're creating that are going to address? Again, it goes back to KPIs. How are you going to help me increase my sales and my customer count with what you built? There's not many of those products. I mean, you could even, I mean, I shouldn't even say this, but like even in the metaverse, at LandVault, we're building activations mostly in Web3 decentralized metaverses, Sandbox, Decentraland. But the reality is, the only metaverse right now that exists that really has real data and real users is Roblox, and that's completely centralized. That's not even quote unquote like a truly decentralized metaverse at all. It's not. It's actually completely centralized. And that's the only one that has a lot of users, a lot of data, and it's the one that a lot of brands are really leaning into because their kids use it, they have familiarity with it.
Yeah,
what is
220 million users. So I mean that's the thing. I mean, everybody wants to tap into that user base and into that demographic. So, but yeah, you're gonna do something cool on the blockchain on Decentraland, then it's kind of empty, right? I mean,
it's empty. It's empty right now. Yeah, it's empty, and Sandbox could be interesting. We've been doing a lot of building. We probably account for 50% of the traffic in Sandbox, and Sandbox could get super interesting if they open. Once they open it up, and my understanding is the reason I haven't opened it up is they're just like trying to build the infrastructure as quickly as possible so that when they do open it up, they can handle a lot of users. So that could be super interesting because the problem with Roblox is the age of those users is like 12 to 18, something like that. That's kind of the average age. And that's a really young demographic for a brand that's trying to appeal to people, more our age and more affluent that it can make big purchases. So that is the one issue with the Roblox is that. Yeah, they have a lot of users and they have a lot of data, but their user base is really just like, it's super young, right? And that's like brands are trying to get in front of people that, make six figures or more and can go buy, $100,000 sports car or whatever, so that's the issue there. So, yeah, so I think, I think it comes back to scalability. It comes back to just infrastructure, building. It's just, we need to be building, and all these ideas I think will play out in some shape or form. We just may be a little ahead. We're a little ahead, obviously, of the adoption curve. So that's the thing. And the Web2 companies right now, obviously we're going in a recession. Web2 companies are just not. They're not going to open. The CFO is not opening up the budget for a lot of experimental stuff. So the one way you can get Web2 brands into the space quicker is minimum guarantees. So that's, for instance, Starbucks, I don't know, like, don't quote me on this, but I mean, I had heard that Starbucks basically paid them $20 million to come on to, like Polygon. So like Starbucks was paid $20 million by Polygon to come into Web3, right? So, you give a brand a bunch of money and then you help it, like, that covers the development costs, then they become a lot more interested a lot quicker, right? I just don't know how many of those deals are happening right now in the space. So the companies that have big cash reserves, really smart business development teams, they're going to be able to onboard some of those big brands quicker. So, that is one of the ways that will happen. But internally, whether a company is going to absorb those costs or create those cost centers, highly unlikely, at least this year, at least in 2023. So, and the other thing that I would say, the last point would be, if you have, a really forward-thinking executive suite, and maybe they've hired like a chief metaverse officer, they're really bought in, then those companies may lean in quicker. There are a few companies, I know Volkswagen has somebody. There's a few other Fortune 100 brands that have those kind of people.
Adidas, maybe.
Yeah, maybe Adidas, and I assume Starbucks probably now has a chief metaverse officer. I would assume that.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, as you're saying, it probably comes down to there's no compelling use case yet that you can say, hey, I need to do this on the blockchain, I need to do this on NFTs, because it's way better than doing it on a traditional system and in a regular database or over Web2.
But do you think, for example, with Reddit, they just sold about 40,000 NFTs to a basic use that is completely against NFTs. But that is very interesting because they found a way to make that happen. So what did they do? I think it's just the language, how they approach the new users that are against. They didn't use actually the word NFT. So what do you think, Jonathan?
They don't use it. They don't use it.
You nailed it. You nailed it. Right. Exactly. They call them digital collectibles. I know MoonPay as well is doing the same thing. Their team to kind of onboard because they're focused on mass adoption. So that's key, the terminology. Yeah, the term NFT is tainted at this point. So it's probably wise not to use it at all. I think it's, again, it goes back to building products where the customer doesn't even know they're interacting with NFTs and Web3. That's how you do it. Like, honestly, the buzzwords need to go. I think most of the buzzwords just aren't helping anybody's case right now. It's actually coming to an, if you go and talk to an executive team, it's just like, hey, I have this product or solution. Don't even ever mention the words Web3. If you can address and be like, this product is going to help you make more money, get more customers, improve your profits, then they are going to be very, very interested.
Definitely. And I think you said about the user base of Roblox is like very young age. But at the same time, I think that is a big potential, like trying to actually use that user base to onboard more people into the metaverse without making things so complicated with language, with the way how they approach. Of course, kids are not going to open a MetaMask wallet, of course not. But if Reddit did that with new users that hate NFTs, I think we can have that into a mass adoption into the younger age. But it's about first understanding that mainstream, they're not going to complicate themselves. The easier, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and in the case of Roblox, the kids already spend a bunch of money on Robux, on the Roblox currency, and they buy spades and they buy a bunch of digital assets. They are not NFTs, but they are used to that. I mean, I know because I know, a kid that is 9 years old and that continuously, his mom finds surprises on the credit card of, he spent a bunch of Robux, right? So, but anyway, it's already there.
Yeah, but so you bring up a good point, though. The fact that the parents, which are probably a lot of these parents are executives at these companies, so they have familiarity. It's something they've already been immersed in. It's something they're familiar with. They're comfortable with it. They've gone through it. They get it. They see their kids, the excitement. They understand sort of the whole process and the customer, sales flow. So that's the difference. Whereas Web3, they just don't have any familiarity, and they know a few people that bought an NFT, but it's always, it's a problem. There's this, the thing is that Roblox, see, that's a good entry point, and that's what brands need to think more of. Like, you get them in there, and then maybe if you're a Web3 company, you can take that customer and eventually bring them slowly to this Web3 journey. So like a Roblox will be, if they think about it, will be in a great position to slowly kind of integrate some of this Web3 technology and take those customers on that journey. I think that's the way to think about it.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, thinking about, the way that a lot of us were thinking a year and a half ago of, onboarding means, teaching people about MetaMask and teaching people about, coins and NFTs and so on and so forth. It's not happening that way. Not at all. No. I mean, so we actually need to get out of that and find more mainstream cases and have people interact with that. And maybe, if they are doing it with Starbucks, even if they are not called NFTs, or with Reddit or with some of the other applications, the NFT technology is underlying. They are using it every day. They just don't care. I mean, it's there. It's the infrastructure.
Yeah. I think blockchain is the one that will, of everything in the Web3 tech stack right now, I think blockchain is the one that's going to probably see the most movement over the next few years, is my guess. That's what I think. So
I think so too.
Yeah, I just think so. It seems like the most logical use case for so many brands, whether you're leveraging it for supply chain or
loyalty.
For example, I went to the Bad Bunny concert and there was a problem with the tickets, and I was like, dude, just make the tickets as NFTs. That solves everything, like the duplicate tickets, everything. It's like the most easy way. And don't tell them that it's an NFT. Just use the technology and onboard new users, and you solve the problems that we already have. We had like paper tickets. I'm like, what year is this? Like, we are having an issue with this, and we have the technology, but we are not using. Maybe the problem is how we are offering to the normal brands the Web3 technology.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, that's right. It's you know, and then, you know, the stack is probably going to change a lot because, you know, probably you will take the blockchain and then you will put IA and you will put some other stuff, and
Yep.
into it, the stack will evolve. And it's if you know, kind of like if the 2022 stack just didn't cut it, and a bunch of those companies are actually in problems, then, you know, there's kind of like a gap that is going to be filled by IA and some other technologies on top of the blockchain, and it will be a different stack. Definitely.
Yep. 100%. 100%. Yeah. Again, you know, I did a post about, you know, a new blockchain, Aptos, which was basically the same team that was building Meta's Facebook's layer 1 blockchain. And then because the FTC got involved and they had to basically shut that project down, but that team just went down the street and money from companies like Andreessen Horowitz. And they've been basically behind the scenes, basically building the layer 1 blockchain, basically focused on mass adoption. They've the whole time have been focused on that, you know, building that blockchain, that layer 1 blockchain for billions of users, because that's all they know how to do at Facebook is scale eyeballs. So, you know, that's one to look out for. And, you know, anybody that just thinks Ethereum's a winner is sadly mistaken, because it's still too early. And the reality is Ethereum has not achieved mass adoption. So you can't call Ethereum the winner. It's the winner with a bunch of degens and other people that are deep in the space, but that's such a small fraction of the population. So people just, I'm not saying Aptos is going to win, but I just think you need to like open your eyes a little bit to like, this is like, nobody has really won anything in Web3 right now. There are no winners as far as I'm concerned. So
what projects do you think that have potential?
Correct. Yeah, but it's exciting. So, but then if you're really in it for reasons, you've aligned yourself with the right people, there's still massive opportunities in the space.
So in your opinion, what are those projects that have potential?
Well, I mean, I just told you about Aptos. I mean, that's one that I'm super excited about. One of my close colleagues, Charles Atkins, went over there recently, and I trust him. He used to work at Polygon, and I lean on him a lot just because he's already been through the previous 2 tech cycles. He knows exactly where we're at right now. He sees all the same patterns. He can compare where we're at right now to what's happened in the previous 2 tech cycles, where the winners and losers are. So, you know, I think that in terms of blockchains, I think that's an exciting one to watch. Polygon's doing a great job right now as well. Their BD team's amazing. They're really killing it. They're bringing in big brands into the space. So definitely, you know, kudos to them. I love MoonPay. I love their team. They have a lot of money too. You know, I mean, that's the thing. You know, MoonPay did a Series A round of $555 million. So they have a lot of money in the bank and a lot of runway to kind of build product, figure things out. I love my team at LandVault. What we're doing, we're building a protocol for the Metaverse. So we used to be an in-video game advertising company. So we've been around for 5 years, but we're building a product and a protocol basically to help creators basically build and monetize, you know, the Metaverse. So that's an exciting company as well, obviously. Yeah, I mean, those are the ones offhand that I think of. There's a few other companies that are kind of like more in like the incubation stage. A company called DNA Block, they actually presented yesterday. I love what they're doing. They're really trying to give the creator economy the opportunity to go out and build avatars and create experiences at a scalable level. So they're exciting. So yeah, those offhand are some of the ones. There's obviously a bunch of other ones that I don't even know, but that's in my world and sphere of influence. Those are the ones that excite me the most right now.
And in the you mentioned the creator economy, John. So yeah, what companies do you see that are doing exciting stuff?
In terms of the creator economy, well, I mean that's a tricky question, because obviously, you know, Instagram is, you know, they're, you know, allowing the creators to kind of put their NFTs on their profiles, and they're going to probably have a marketplace there and stuff like that. I mean, there's companies that are trying to be like the TikToks of Web3, the Facebooks, but it really comes back to the question is like, well, like, why wouldn't those companies, why wouldn't Facebook and Meta just become the Facebook or Meta of Web3, right? They already have the users, they have the data. So I know there's a lot of companies that are trying to be the Web3 versions of a lot of these creator platforms. I don't know if it's going to be it's going to be an uphill battle. So, yeah.
But in a sense, you know, Meta has always been pretty reactive to
right.
To give money to, you know, give out money to creators.
Right.
They are doing it right now because they're forced by TikTok.
Right.
But they don't have the money that that YouTube puts into creators, for example. I mean, of course, Instagram is doing efforts and it has a creator program and it's starting to help them monetize, but it's not there anywhere near YouTube, and you know, not as exciting as TikTok. So
yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I saw some article, I didn't read it too deeply, but you know, like Mr. Beast, they said if Mr. Beast really leans into Web3, he'll become the first like creator to become a billionaire. So I think that's what's exciting. I think these creators that have done well on the Instagrams, the YouTubes, seeing them start to lean Web3, it'll be interesting to see how that explode, because right now, you know, all of us creators, I'm not really like I have a pretty big following on LinkedIn, but nothing compared to a lot of other people. But I don't own or control any of my followers, and nobody does. Even whether you're on Instagram, YouTube, or whatever, those followers could disappear tomorrow if YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn decides to shut it down. So I think Web3, the ability for a creator to own and control their community and their users and have them, you know, you basically own all those users all over those platforms through Web3 is very compelling. So I think that's the exciting opportunity. But I don't know really of any solution yet that's been built in the Web3 space to kind of address that. I'm sure people are working on it, and I'm sure some of these Web2 companies are trying to figure that out, because they obviously want to control that before somebody else comes and just kills their business completely, right? So I assume that they're probably trying to develop some type of solution like that to address this burgeoning desire of creators to own and control more of the content, but they want to do it on their terms. And maybe at the end of the day, probably the ideal is what the splits are going to probably benefit creators a little more. They'll be getting more money in their pocket, but at the end of the day, the Web2 brands are probably still going to control, you know, the whole process. That's my guess, but I don't know. We'll see, right?
Yeah, I think that the yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. It's very exciting stuff.
What do you expect? What do you expect for 2023 in the Web3 space?
2023.
Yeah, Crystal ball.
There's going to be a lot of zigs and zags. It's going to be bumpy. I say it's like an airplane in heavy turbulence. It's going to be bumpy, and then it'll find some smooth air at some point. But I think the next couple of quarters are going to be very telling. We'll see. I think you're going to see a lot of companies go out of business. A lot of big names. They're going to shock you probably. A few will survive. There'll be some new companies that emerge. So it's going to, I think Web3 at the end of the year is going to start looking a lot more like Web2. That's my guess. Okay. That's my guess. I mean, not a lot of people probably will argue or disagree, but I'm getting that sense. Is just you know, one of the reasons I hit too is early on in Web3, I was talking to everybody in cities except San Francisco, and now I'm starting to talk to more people in San Francisco, which is Silicon Valley. So that just tells me kind of how things are starting to shift a little bit. Because I was always wondering, why am I not talking to anybody in Silicon Valley? Nobody in Silicon Valley really was leaning much into it, other than, you know, the VCs, but there wasn't a lot of conversations even with builders. And now,
let me clarify something, John. When you're saying it will look a lot like Web2, meaning centralized, and a few companies in Silicon Valley, right? Is that's what's behind the lines in what you're saying?
Yeah. That's my opinion. I could be completely wrong, but that's my opinion. So yeah, That's what I'm going to start. Like I said before, who's going to win Web3? Like I literally did a LinkedIn post. I was probably maybe like 8, 9, 10 months ago, but I said, you know, who's going to win Web3? Web2. So that's I'm gonna stick with my opinion on that. I just think that, but then I'm like,
it's sad.
It's sad, but I have an MBA. I'm a CPA. I'm a numbers guy. Like I look at things very analytically. So I've always looked at all the space very logically, level-headed. I've never got into the hype and the greed. So I never bought into it, because the reality is like, it didn't make a lot of sense. It never made sense to me how people were becoming millionaires overnight selling cartoons as NFTs. It wasn't logical. It doesn't make cartoons. And I knew, and you know, these were products that had fake everything, fake roadmaps, fake utility, fake communities. Most of it was fake.
Yeah, that's right. And if a bunch of those companies go down, and just a few of them survive, then kind of like it's gonna go up to the Googles and the Metas and, you know, the rest of the Web2 companies of the world.
Exactly. So I think it'll be fun to watch though. I hope I'm wrong, but that's what everything I'm getting in terms of my network and just reading the press and all the data and information I have is indicating that's the way we're headed. So,
all right, Wendy.
No, I think it's very interesting to see every point of view, because we need also people that is very logical, because some are so excited, so emotional, and sometimes you need to have this balance, right? So I do like this perspective of John, because it gives another perspective, maybe a little bit discouraging, but I think it's important to have this reality check sometimes.
No, but the tech is gonna change. I think that John mentioned something. Yeah, you mentioned something early on, John, when you said tech is gonna change. Tech always changes, and but yeah, it's gonna evolve into something a little bit different. Maybe not what we were thinking a year ago, but the stack is gonna be enriched with Web2 components and with IA and with a bunch of other stuff that is gonna make it better and more resilient.
And sometimes you need to take a step back to move forward. So I think that could be the case in this case.
Yeah.
So we're kind of like getting to time. So John, what would be your advice to people joining the space this year? I mean, it's kind of like a tough time to join, but there's people joining, and I think that
that's true.
You know.
I think join the space. I think get ready for a crazy ride, a lot of uncertainty. Get ready to solve a lot of complex problems. I going to CES last week and dealing with a lot of these Web2 brands. I was like, wow, we have an uphill battle. There's a lot of resistance. So you better be ready to preach and really stay positive. But you can be hyped and positive, but you have to have substance behind the hype and being positive. So that's the difference in 2023 as opposed to the last couple of years. People were just hyped up, but there was no real logic or data or product to support that. So get excited, but be ready to just build and solve problems. So yeah, and I'm going to tell you, just focus on finding really good people and good companies that are really level-headed about it and well capitalized. I think that's the other important thing. I think you better, if you're getting into space, you better have a company and you better make sure that do your due diligence, make sure that they have the money and runway, because I think generating revenues is still going to be a challenge in 2023 for Web3. So but if you're the company that has a big piggy bank and can continue to just support, building out and paying salaries, then you're gonna be okay. So that's why I mentioned the MoonPays, the Polygons. They have those big piggy banks. So
no, that's right. Well, it's been great, John. It's great conversation. It's an awesome conversation in difficult times, because at the end of the day, we can be blind that right now, at least for the 2023, it doesn't look that rosy. really. But of course, for the future, I'm pretty optimistic that all of these technologies will play a very important role in the future.
100%. Yeah, I think the problem is we got into something way early. Remember, we leaned into the adoption curve way early. So it is exciting. You've been here since the start, but it's just we're in probably 5 years too early. But so that if you can just kind of grind it out over these next few years, then I think all of a sudden mass adoption is going to catch up here in the next few years. I think by 2025, I think it'll be a completely different story. So
exactly, hopefully, right.
It will be.
Yeah.
It will be.
Cross our fingers.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
This was fun. Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to do it again. So thank you for this opportunity. I had a blast and excited to come visit you in Mexico City at some point here.
Hey, John, if you're gonna come, I'd love to help and help out, play a role somehow. If you're gonna be here in the event or whatever, I mean, I'll love to, and I'm pretty sure you want to.
Yes, of course.
We will amazing
with amazing tacos for you.
Yes, yes. I've only been to Mexico City once. It was a long time ago, and I didn't properly get to experience the city. So I want to come back, and I've only heard amazing things. So I'm excited to come back. So
we got you.
All right.
Great.
Can't wait. All right.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. Thank you. Have an amazing weekend.
Same to you.
Bye.
We invite you to join the Metatech experts community on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Discord.